Gents, I just want to pause the episode for a moment to let you know about the Strong Men of Value Academy. You will have heard me refer to it a number of times, and I want to bring more attention to it. So this isn't just a program, it's a life-changing environment and community of men who are focused on personal and professional growth. We're looking at areas of relationships, wealth, and health, things to help you thrive and maximize your life. Imagine having bi-monthly one-on-one coaching sessions with myself, weekly group coaching calls, and an incredible brotherhood of high achievers by your side. Now we're diving into resilience, leadership, and holistic growth to not just succeed in your career, but to thrive in your health and your relationships. Your journey to greatness, it starts here. So join the movement and you can apply for the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can head to themanthatcanproject.com to find out more. Welcome to episode 495 of the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan Stuart, and today I have the privilege of sitting down with an extraordinary guest, someone who's shown us what it truly means to navigate through challenges and achieve excellence. At the tender age of 18, he burst onto the global stage, winning gold at the 2016 Olympics. Since then, he's become a household name and a beacon of resilience and determination. Yet his journey has been anything but smooth. He's faced health scares, the pressure of expectations, the intense scrutiny that comes with the fame. And through it all, though, he's continually pushed his body and mind, remaining committed to his craft, all for the races that last less than a minute. You're probably wondering who this is. We're going to get there. He's the embodiment of an elite athlete, right? Constantly balancing the physical intensity, the mental strength, and the demands of the public life. He's an Australian swimming legend, Kyle Chalmers. Now, today we're going to dive deep into Kyle's world. We will discuss his early career, the challenges that he has faced, his relationship with pain and sacrifice, and his insights on handling the public opinion. We'll also explore his ongoing pursuit of excellence and what advice he'd offer to young people chasing their dreams. Now, obviously, this will be a very inspiring conversation with one of Australia's most decorated swimmers. So let's dive in. And before we do dive in, I want to remind you guys that as listeners of the Man That Can Project podcast, you receive a 20% off our breakthrough experience, which is an incredible program, 8-module program designed to help you maximize your life, right? Looking at areas of physical health, of leisure, of career, of finances, of your relationships and your personal growth. Plus, you get access to our incredible community with men from all around the world. So if you are ready to take your life to that next step, head over to themanthatcanproject.com and look at the breakthrough experience. Upon the checkout, you will be able to use the code TMTCP at the checkout for 20% off, and you'll be able to find all the details in the show notes. Let's dive into today's episode. Kyle, thanks for joining us today, mate. Obviously, you have achieved so much, and especially at such a young age. So can you start by telling us a bit about your journey to swimming and what inspired you to pursue that career?
Yeah, so I guess for me, swimming probably didn't start up the normal way for your average swimmer. Most swimmers kind of start out as really young kids and then progress through the squad ranks, and then from there kind of really dedicate themselves at quite a young age to making the Australian team or progressing onto the Olympic Games. So for me, I grew up in country South Australia, so a town of Port Lincoln, about a 7-hour drive away from Adelaide. Always wanted to be an Aussie rules football player, following my dad's footsteps. So as a kid, probably got put into footy quite young. I think we were doing like Oz kick footy maybe as a 4 or 5 year old, and from there kind of just playing for the local team, and tried basketball, tried cricket, tried athletics, tennis, indoor soccer. Kind of was very lucky as a kid to dabble in most sports and decide which was the right one for me. But swimming, fortunately or unfortunately, depends on what day you get me, was the one that probably chose me in the end. I think we were lucky enough to have a swimming pool in my backyard in Port Lincoln, and my dad was a bit of a fitness fanatic, so he'd jump in there and swim all the time, and I'd love to jump in there before school and swim with him in the mornings just to I guess be close to my dad and have some fun with him. And I enjoyed swimming. There's no better way to start the day than jumping in the cold pool in the backyard. So as a 9-year-old, got selected to swim to represent my school at the school swimming carnival over in Port Lincoln, and probably was one of very few 9-year-olds that could comfortably swim 50 meters. So we over there had a 6-lane 25-meter pool, so nothing too fancy in the country there, and managed to go okay there, which meant that I got to go to Adelaide, the big city, to represent Port Lincoln at the SAPSASA competition against all the other country kids from around South Australia. And this is a long story short, really. I'm really just touching on the key points here, but ended up doing quite well at SAPSASA. Probably just having that natural ability more so than hadn't done any training or anything. So they needed some country representation on the South Australian state team. So I was selected to represent the state as a 9-year-old to go to Canberra and race in 2008. And from there, I kind of, started to get definitely a whole lot more involved in it, swim more regularly. But still, footy was a major player. I always wanted to play football. Swimming for me was kind of just for fitness for my football season. So I knew that if I swam through the summer, then I'd be a bit fitter come winter time when footy was rolling around. And it wasn't until 2015, once I'd moved to Adelaide, I made the World Championships team to represent Australia in Kazan, Russia that year. And I went back and played footy and cracked the bone in my wrist and did the ligaments in my ankle in one of the games, and had the head coach of Swimming Australia kind of call me and say, hey, you've signed to represent Australia this year at the World Championships. You need to make a decision right now, whether it's football or swimming. I had a fair few people in my ears about that decision, which was a very hard one to make. I had kind of AFL scouts out there watching me at that stage play footy, and my dad obviously was the coach of that team and former AFL player, so a very hard decision to make as a 16-year-old just about to turn 17. But for me, I knew that I was going to get paid some money to represent Swimming Australia at the World Championships. So, like most 16-year-olds, you probably take the money route.
Mate, 100%. I can relate to that. I was in different sports, but rugby and athletics. I was a national level runner, and at the end of school, it's like, do you go to rugby, like pursue the rugby route, or running, like athletics? And for me, I wasn't getting any offers for money with running, so I was playing rugby. And looking back, I'm like, probably the wrong choice. But anyway,
hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely is, mate. But you obviously touched on that moment where you had to choose between the two, and for you, what was your dad's thoughts? Obviously, he's an ex-AFL player as well. What was his thoughts on you choosing swimming? Was he supportive either way, or because I know obviously your dad, and for most blokes as well, their dad's, I guess, blessing is important to us.
Yeah, he was very supportive, and the person that did the phone calls for me, had those hard conversations with my personal coach here in Adelaide, and then Swimming Australia as well. I was pretty young at that stage, not overly capable of holding probably a very adult conversation, and probably disappointed in myself for what I'd done. Like I cracked the bone in my wrist in the first quarter, got that strapped back up. Dad was the coach, talked him into letting me go back out there. Then did the ligaments in my ankle. I remember the kind of drive from the football field to the hospital to get a few X-rays and scans done wasn't fantastic. But Dad was always very supportive of me, and I think he knew that swimming was always going to be my calling. I'd represented Australia on junior teams since 2012, broken a few of kind of Ian Thorpe's age group records, and had some success as a young kid. So he probably knew that swimming was the way that I was going to go eventually, just with the success I was having. And he and my coach were very, very good in that. They let me kind of make the decision for myself. They still let me do 4 or 5 footy trainings a week and play footy on the weekend. And
that's awesome.
Instead of, like most young kids, they get put into swimming and they kind of go to, 9, 10 swimming sessions a week as a 12, 13-year-old kid and just get burnt out so quickly. Yep. They're kind of getting up in the morning early training, going to school, training at night again. Whereas my swimming as a kid was very different. I was playing a lot more football, which was active. I was playing a little bit of basketball still when I was in Adelaide, and then swimming probably 4 or 5 times a week too. So nothing too major, which I guess didn't always help me to stay not mentally fatigued and cook myself on swimming at such a young age, because I see so many young kids who have so much talent come into swimming and have some success early, and then they just burn themselves out because that's all they've done from 5-6 years old, and they've done the same sort of training commitments that I have now as a full-time professional swimmer.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at those development pathways. You see it in all sports. It's that little bit of success from a young age, and it's like, whether it's parents influenced or the children decide to do that, where you go all in and you sacrifice opportunities just to be inspired in other avenues of sport, but even develop as a kid, because you can't get paid until you're a certain age as well. So you don't necessarily need to go all in. Yes, there's skill development, but a lot of it is base fitness and stuff like that, which is transferable.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's always my strongest tip to parents when they're asking me about their kids' swimmings and whatnot. It's like, just make sure they have life balance and, kind of dabble in as many sports as they possibly can, because it's so important, I think, to be able to play lots of different sports, to even be better at swimming, with your coordination and fitness. And like you said, that base fitness you get from other sports. So I do think that cross training can be super beneficial when you're younger.
How do you, I guess, gain that balance now that obviously you committed to the one sport and you have been doing it full time for a long while? How do you sort of not get burnt out and, I guess, lose motivation, or do you experience the burnout and loss of motivation?
Yeah, definitely. I think every athlete at times of the years, probably, or over the years, you definitely feel burnt out at points and lose your motivation a bit. But for me, life balance is such a massive, factor in my success in the pool. I know that if I'm going to be swimming fast and swimming my fastest, I have to be a happy person. So, like a happy person, a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer, as they like to say. So for me, there's been definitely periods of my time where I've completely committed myself to swimming and burnt myself out. And 2016, after the Olympic Games, I had that little bit of success, came home, thought swimming was all I kind of needed to do and focus on, and did everything I could to be the best I possibly could. And within a year, I was burnt out and not wanting to swim anymore, and contemplating calling it quits there and then. But for me, again, luckily having the right people around me, they've ensured that I've had that bit of life balance over the years to stay motivated in the pool. So for me now, I'm labouring on a building site 2 days a week just for something completely different. I'm a person that can't sit still whatsoever. So Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, I with one of my best mates who I swim with, Matt Temple, go down to the building site and just kind of stuff around. We don't do too many productive things, but lend a hand and do most of the shitty jobs. But I love doing that. It makes me so happy. It makes me so happy connecting with just a different group of people. We're kind of the bottom of the ranks, so we do all the shit jobs and kind of get pushed around a bit, which is quite nice. And then I've had my reptile collection, which has been a big part of mine, big part of my life over this last period, is having reptiles. I grew up in the country. One of my favorite things growing up was going with my grandpa and catching lizards. So my fascination for reptiles has always kind of stuck with me, and managed to, at one stage, I think at the start of 2020, I had about 500 reptiles in my collection. So converted my double garage into a full-time reptile room, and was breeding bearded dragons, frillneck lizards, pythons, blue tongues, angle-headed dragons, you kind of name it. I had a fair crack at it, had a pet crocodile.
What?
Yeah, done it all, mate.
What is it? What is it about them that you enjoy so much?
I think for me, it's hard. Firstly, it's hard to have a job as a swimmer, and it's hard to study. Like, I find it, I've tried studying university, but we go away so often, or you come home from training and you're so exhausted that that's the last thing you want to do. So for me, having this reptile collection that gave me this identity away from the pool. So I went, made an Instagram, was KC Critters, and made all this merch and stuff, and was breeding all these animals. And people started to know me as Cole Chalmers, the reptile breeder, rather than Cole Chalmers, the swimmer. And so I loved that aspect of it, like the mates that I was forming through that, and just anywhere in the world I could go to a zoo or a reptile park or people's personal collections and
Yep.
play with reptiles and distract myself from what I was there to do. Like it's always healthy to have distractions. And but yeah, I've always just been fascinated by reptiles. I think there's a lot of people that are scared by them, which interests me. I think I'm, to an extent, a little bit scared of snakes at times. So it kind of gives me that adrenaline hit going into the reptile room, kind of opening up an enclosure and not knowing whether it's going to launch out and bite me or be happy to be held that day. Yeah, I've been bitten heaps of times.
Is it painful, or you just is what it is?
No, not painful. Just a bit of a shock, I think. Depends on the size of the snake. Obviously, we've got some pretty big pythons in Australia that can do a fair bit of damage. So the bigger ones aren't overly fun. I think for me, I'd rather be bitten by a snake though than lizards, because lizards tend to bite and don't let go. So I've had a few instances where that's happened. It hasn't been fun. I got bitten by my crocodile. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely copped my fair share of bites and had a bit of blood loss over the time from the reptiles.
Mate, there's a big portion of our audience is American, and I was on the call with some Americans this morning, and they're like, "You're spiders and whatnot." I'm like, they're not that bad. It's only if you go looking for them, and they'll listen to this and be like, "This dude is insane." Like,
yeah, definitely wired different. Which I've come to accept over the last few years. Like I'm a weird dude. I'm wired different, but it helps me have success, I think.
Well, dude, it's one thing that I've really enjoyed. I've gone through a lot of your stuff, just learning about you and seeing what your interests are. And the thing that I really wanted to talk to you about as well is you don't sort of conform to, I guess, what people put athletes into a certain box or whatever. You just seem like someone who's so, integral in who they are as an individual. And when you were saying you were working on the job site and things like that, for me, I'm like, what an absolute lad. Like you're at the cream of the crop as a swimmer, but you still make time to do the things that are important to you as well. You're not like, I know some people experience fame or success and they sort of venture away from what truly makes them happy. And you found this unique balance. So for me, when I was going through stuff like that photo you posted yesterday of that 5 meter long snake, I was like, ugh. And here you are just absolutely frothing on it.
Yeah. I think that's where I've struggled a little bit over my time, is that I am just a regular person in a professional world, if that makes sense. Like a lot of my teammates or people I've been through the journey with probably don't share the same values as me at times, because I am I'm just your average bloke. Like I've got a lot of good mates that aren't professional athletes whatsoever, and they're the guys that I spend my time with. And most of them are tradies, so I kind of want to be a part of that world as well. So how can I do that? And that means going and labouring or doing work experience on a building site 2 days a week, just to kind of be a part of it and connect with just different people. And I love swimming and I love being a professional athlete. I love being at the top, but I think over this last little period, I've really made sure that I have connected with myself and my values and what makes me happy, because I know that that's going to make me swim faster in the pool. And if that's working on the work side, if that's going out fishing all day Sunday instead of recovering for the next week of training, or playing with snakes and potentially getting bitten, and just like little things, nothing too extreme or too crazy, because I do want to have a lot of success in the pool, and I am very motivated, very goal orientated, and I want to be the best. But I know that these things are what makes me the best. So I definitely have a whole lot of fun with the journey and a whole lot of fun away from the pool. And I try to make sure I want to be relatable to the audience that are following me. You know what I mean? Like I want everyone to realize that you can achieve great things, but still just be your average person, have a lot of fun, and enjoy the journey. I see a lot of people that kind of give everything to swimming and burn themselves out, don't enjoy it. They're negative towards each other, negative towards swimming, always complaining about everything. Whereas I love going into training and smashing myself, and then I love then coming home, putting the high vis on and going down and pulling nails out of the wall, really, rather than putting them in. So
unique,
yeah,
man.
Good.
I love it. How did you deal with, obviously you hit fame like pretty quickly as well. So how do you deal with the fame and being the public figure, especially when, as you said, you were sort of at such a young age, you really don't know who you are or what your interests are. So you're sort of growing and developing as a bloke while having so many eyes on you. What was that experience like?
Yeah, man, that was really hard for me. Like I went across to the Rio Olympics as a 17-year-old. I'd never raced individually at a major competition, so like at a world championships against the big dogs before. Um, I was in the shadows of Cameron McAvoy massively. Like he went in there as the favourite to win it by an absolute mile. So for me, I was kind of able to fly under the radar. I was training with his coach while we were away because my coach wasn't there. I was in his room at the Olympic Games in the village. And then, I think for me, I love the experience. I have never put too much pressure on myself, but I've always believed in myself and had a really good heat swim. And then from that heat swim, I was like, holy fuck, like I think I could actually win this thing. And then, speaking to my coach before the final, all he said to me was, fuck him. That was his whole race plan motivation. But
Fuck
that's
'em.
50 hours a week for 52 weeks of the year. You train for that moment, so you should be able to do it kind of without too much guidance and support. But yeah, I kind of went away. Someone that no one knew, or I could get away with doing anything with my mates. I kind of walk around the streets or the shops, or go to the football, have some fun with my mates, and never get stopped. Whereas you go away for 4 weeks and then kind of came back a national hero. Whereas and life just changed so dramatically. Like I was getting stopped everywhere for photos and signatures, having amazing experiences like, flying overseas for photo shoots, big sponsors starting to come on board. Back of the Ute on AFL Grand Final day with all these, AFL players that I'd idolised forever, and they're kind of coming up to me and asking me for photos, and I'm like, just this massive shift as just turned 18-year-old at that stage was very, very, very challenging, and something I struggled with massively. And there's no one you can really rely on in that period to kind of go to for support and advice, because there's only ever been, including me, 3 100 freestyle Olympic champions in Australia, and the last one was 1956. So it's a long time ago in a completely new world with social media and stuff. And I was lucky to have support of Grant Hackett and Ian Thorpe and Michael Klim and those guys that were had a lot of success in the pool. But I had to really face it myself, and it took me a very, very long time to get used to it. But it was definitely challenging going from old Cole to new Cole, kind of go away a boy and come back a man.
Yeah, it just literally happens overnight, and quite often you see it with a lot of athletes. They might be 18 and they just have a stellar year in the NRL or AFL, and then whatever scandal happens, and it's like people put so much pressure on you to have figured everything out in the space of 24 hours, and it's like, I'm still the same bloke I was yesterday. I've just had an awesome outcome here, a great result, which we're also going to make mistakes and have challenges along the way. But from that, like dealing with the public opinion, right? Like people, and you touched on social media. I watch it with my wife and their band and stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know how you do it. Like, it's just a horrible place at times. And do you experience obviously there's pros and cons to everything, but there's beautiful amount of pros with media, getting your story out there, or amplifying your success. But then there's the downside. Do you ever cop that, and how do you sort of manage that?
Yeah, firstly, social media. I think social media has been one that I've had to adapt to massively. Like all of these things, there's no like kind of book you can read and learn how to kind of deal with people for photos or signatures, or signing sponsorship contracts, and running my own social media and doing that was something I really struggled with to start with, in terms of like you have these sponsors come on board and their expectation of you is to do 12 posts a year and appear at these 2 functions for them type thing, and then that's kind of it. And I always kind of found it really hard to be like, hey, here's my Mercedes car that I'm driving around in. Like, how can I actually take 12 photos of that a year to post, to make it seem authentic and make it seem like my audience want to react to that? And as soon as I'd kind of put up one of those sponsored posts, my audience would go down, and it kind of turned me off of doing that sort of stuff. But then, over the years, I've made my social media, especially now, it's as authentic as it possibly can be. It's me on the building site. On a Tuesday, I'll completely take the piss out of myself on the building site. Going to Bunnings and asking for rubber nails and left-handed hammers, and just have a lot of fun with it, and try to show people my authentic self. I'm not a serious bloke. I take the piss out of myself. I'll do the reptile stuff. I'll just take people on my everyday life of what I'm doing, rather than always being like trying to post some sort of motivational swimming thing and then post a sponsor ad. It's authentic Kyle now, and I think I appreciate that a whole lot more, and I'm a whole lot more comfortable doing social media. And obviously you still have to deal with some interesting people. I think that's one thing that the generation before me don't really understand, is like anyone can actually contact you at any point in time now and say whatever they want. And you can have 100 great comments, and you have that one bad comment, and you start focusing all your energy on that one negative comment on, why does this person not like me? Why are they saying that sort of thing? You start at times stalking them, being like, they've got a wife and kids. Like, why are they trying to say this sort of stuff? And I would probably at times, get caught into that loophole. Whereas now, I'm just happy being me, mate. If people don't like me, they don't like me. If people don't like what I do or appreciate what I do, that's their choice. As long as I'm happy doing what I want to do, and kind of having fun in the pool, having fun out of the pool, and just being my person, it's been a much better life shift for me, and a much healthier life shift for me.
It's a good point. Like that area of focus, we do give too much of our focus to other people's opinions and everything like that. And, 99% of the time, we're never going to meet that other dipshit on the end of the line who's might be just having a bad day or whatever it may be, who's criticizing you for something. And it is, if you can just focus on being the most authentic version of yourself and enjoying what's in front of you, hanging out with your mates, then you don't necessarily give attention and focus to it. And then you can carry on with your life, because the world keeps moving on. We see it time and time again, how whatever the biggest news is today, tomorrow it's irrelevant. Like the world's just moving so quickly. So we just need to focus on that moving forward. But one thing I watched the Amazon doco, as I was saying to, and one thing that I loved, which you said, was you were just addicted to the pain and you love to push your body. Can you share more about, I guess, this mindset for you and how it helps your training, but how it's, I guess, helped you in life as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, again, the other day, I'm a massive NBA basketball fan, so I watched game 4 of the Lakers versus Denver Nuggets playoff game.
Yeah, not good.
And I'm listening to the commentary, and they're saying about how LeBron James is there 5 hours before the game as a 38-year-old who's achieved everything in the sport. He's there putting up his shots, warming himself up, kind of getting in the way of the people that are setting up for the trophy ceremony at the end of the game. And I'm like, and that kind of really resonated with me. I think for me, my mindset has always been and always will be, is that what I do in training and what my coach asks me to do and expects of me is the bare minimum. Like anyone and everyone around the world is doing what their coach asks. It's about what you do on top of that to do that little bit extra every day. Every training session is what's going to help you reach the top. So for example, yesterday, like we're in Darwin, we've been doing some heat training. So we put on as much warm clothes as we possibly can. So gloves, beanies, a couple jumpers, tracksuit pants, in 32 degrees Celsius weather, and walk around the Darwin city just to, do a bit of heat training, get some interesting looks. And, yesterday it's, we were supposed to go for 30 minutes. But for me, I like to do that little bit extra and try get the most out of myself, which at times gets my coach pretty annoyed because I'll run myself into the ground. But I go for 45 minutes. I lost almost a kilo in that amount of time just walking around, doing a bit of jogging in there. But I think it's just always doing those little bit extras to ensure that you're on the top, and you are, when I stand behind the blocks in the Olympic final, I want to make sure that I have zero doubts in my mind. I want to make sure that there's been no stone unturned. I've done every single thing I possibly can to have success and be fit and be firing and, have no doubts in that 47 seconds of racing that I'm the best, and I've done everything I can to be here and deserving of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And especially in Darwin, most people are wearing thongs all year round and like a wife beater singlet, and that's it. So when you got the seeing blokes like you walking around in what you were walking around in, raises a few eyelids.
Definitely.
With that point of obviously pushing your mindset, I when you were saying that in the documentary, for me, it really stood out because a lot of people do that bare minimum, and you never really know what you're fully capable of if you don't. And there's a lot of stuff around trying to avoid burnout, which I can understand and I can appreciate. But if you don't ever push yourself to experiencing that, oh, I think I've done too much, you don't really know where your threshold is. And I think for yourself as an elite athlete and someone who is at the very, very top, how frequently would you push yourself to that next gear or do more than I guess expected of you?
Every day I'm in the pool. I think, now my swimming is a job for me, and I have, 2.5 hours or 3 hours there in the morning and 2.5 hours, 3 hours there kind of at night time. So for me, I really do have to be smart with it. And there's certain parts of the year. So this year for me, my main focus is the World Championships in July. So from there, I kind of run it back to, January, February. I can have fun on the weekends with my mates. I can, I'm training hard, but I'm just building up that base fitness for the year. And I'm still able, I'm training 9 times a week in the pool. I'm gymming 3 times a week. I'm still doing a whole lot of training, but on a Saturday night, if I want to have a couple of beers with my mates, I don't see that as a problem. Whereas, my coach and stuff might, but for me, I need to do that at times just to be, again, that normal person. Nothing silly like staying out till, 3 or 4 a.m. and completely writing myself off. But if I want to have, 1 or 2 beers, catch up with my mates, catch up with a heap of guys I haven't seen in a long time, I think that's very healthy to help me get through the training block. And then from February, that's when it starts to get really serious. So, we go we have a big training camp as an Australian team towards the end of February. And then March, we have a race, we race in Sydney, April Nationals. Then May has been race in Sydney, training camp in Darwin. And then now we really lock in and it's trials and World Championships. So I think from pretty much February through, it just gets more and more intense. I start, making those sacrifices, but also those gains that I need to be successful. So, I obsess over finding the little things that I know that other people aren't doing to get myself over the line. So, like every day I have a green smoothie for breakfast that has spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, some turmeric, some black pepper, and a raw egg in it. And it's about 1 litre, tastes horrendous. But for me, that's just that mindset of like, if I have this thing, it's like the absolute, it's just like drinking gold for me. So there's just these constant little things that I'm trying to do day in, day out that, like I said, when I do stand behind the blocks, I have complete faith in myself. But, once World Champs is out of the way, I'll have all of August off of swimming. I won't do any swimming. And then September, I'll start to slowly build back into it. And it'll be quieter towards the end of the year where I'm not necessarily working on trying to swim as fast as I can and try and be in the best shape as I possibly can. It's more about, maybe going into training and working on my tumble turns or working on my dive starts or, working on little aspects in the gym that are going to make me better in the pool. So my mind shift changes slightly just to, prevent that burnout.
So even at the elite of the elite, you're still working on the fundamentals of your race, like the tumble turns, the diving and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I got second in Tokyo by 0.06 of a second. So the guy that I raced, Caleb Dressel, he dove off of the block. His reaction to the gun was 0.60 of a second, and mine was 0.66 of a second. So all that was he was able to react faster than me. So if I reacted at the same time as him, touched the ball at the same time, or 0.01 ahead of him, and was a back-to-back Olympic champion in the 100 freestyle, my life would be very, very different. So, like our sport comes down to 0.01 of a second all the time. So you need to work on those fundamentals day in, day out. Like every turn I have in training, we might swim 50 Ks a week. I only race 100 freestyle. So I have one turn that I have to nail in a race. And we do 50,000 meters a week. So I have so many opportunities every day to get my turns right. So that every single turn I do with intent and do with, that I want to do it well, so that when it comes to race day, it happens naturally. I don't have to think about it. And, like I said, I am a person that's wired very, very different. I don't think that you can necessarily train or become how I'm wired at times. I think it's something that I've been born with, and something that, like a lot of the elite athletes I see have, is that they just obsess over the fundamentals and obsess over the small things that make them the absolute best. And I definitely fall into that category.
Do you think that links with your, I guess, the enjoyment for pushing your body to that limit as well, though? Because I feel a lot of people don't want to do the 1%ers or lose focus on the fundamentals because they're looking for that one thing that's going to completely transform their life, rather than looking at it as the perspective of, if you do these small fundamental things and you become really good at them, you will get that outcome that you're looking for. It's almost like you're committed to doing the hard shit to get a better result, whereas a lot of people sort of want to do the easy thing, hoping that it gives them a great result.
Yeah, definitely. I see people I train with all the time kind of skip those things, and I'm like, these people are so much more talented than me. If they put in the hard work day in, day out, they would have the success, and they would be absolutely unstoppable in the world. So yeah, I massively agree with that. That I don't think it's luck. One of the great 100 breaststrokers, Adam P. I'm not sure if you've heard or seen of him, but he's 14-time world record holder in the 100 breaststroke, back-to-back Olympic champion, and everything. And I saw one of his quotes recently that said, he said, "It's not luck, it's hard work." And I completely agree with that too. A lot of people go, "Oh yeah, Kyle's naturally talented," or we can't do that. But with hard work and like that mindset every day of chasing success and finding those small things, it's kind of like building a house. You have to start out with the foundation and the structure and do all the small aspects to make the house have success. It's the same in the pool. You can't skip steps. You need to do it all. And I think I'm just lucky that, like I said in that Amazon documentary, I do obsess over pain, and I love that. Like in 100 freestyle, you get to 75 meters and your body's just full of lactate, and most people start to slow down and swim backwards and can't win that mind game at that point. Whereas for me, I love finding a way to be able to swim over the top of that and swim through that pain and swim faster through that point. It's like a challenge, like a sick challenge for me. That's like, all right, well, let's have a go. Like, you're trying to drag me back, but I reckon like I've got you 99% of the time. I'm able to kind of win that battle. So yeah, I'm definitely a weird individual.
Dude, it'd be interesting being a passenger inside your mind when you're in the pool, just like seeing what's going on, the conversations that you're having with yourself. That'd be for sure.
A whole lot of swear words, I think.
Yeah. It's you've obviously spoken publicly about your I don't want to mess this word up for the heart condition, but supraventricular tachycardia. Is that how we pronounce it? And obviously also the mental health. Would you be able to
tachycardia?
Tachycardia. Fuck. I was like all morning. I'm like, come on, don't stuff it up. One shot. You can tell I'm not very good at reading. But obviously you've spoken about those experiences and also your mental health in the sport. But can you share a bit more how you've managed that? Obviously you had surgery on the heart and the impact or effect they've had on your career.
Yeah, so had 3 surgeries on my heart. So when I was about 12 years old, I remember being over in Port Lincoln and kicking the football out on the road with my dad, and my heart rate went up massively, and I felt really dizzy, and I couldn't work out what really was going on. And as a young male, you don't really talk about those sorts of things. You just go to you retreat to your bedroom and lay on your bed until you feel a little bit better. So did as every good male would, and did that, and kind of never spoke of that experience. Kind of went, oh well, we're back to normal again. So who really cares? But then that started to become a little bit more frequent, and it started to scare me a little bit, and because I would get very dizzy and potentially close to blacking out. So being in the country and not having access to obviously the greatest health system or health services, we were never really able to uncover what it was until I finally got to Adelaide. And I remember one training session kind of having it happen and managing to get myself out of the pool, go across to a medical centre. They were able to do an ECG and work out what the problem was. So that was probably close to 2015, I guess, when they worked it out. So it was supraventricular tachycardia. So essentially, I have had an extra circuit in my heart that the blood could get into, and then it would just go around and around and around in the circuit and would get trapped in there and unable to get out. So my heart rate would go up. And sometimes it might last a couple of minutes. Sometimes it might last up to half an hour. If I had it in the pool and blacked out, then there's a good possibility that I could have drowned. So it wasn't the greatest thing to have. So 2015, I made the World Championship swimming team. They said we have to operate on this. I was young, I was scared. I said I want to be under for the surgery. They weren't able to get enough adrenaline to my heart, able to find the problem, so it was unsuccessful. 2017, they decided to try to do the surgery again. This time they kept me awake, gave me some sort of hypnotic drugs or something that meant that I couldn't actually remember the surgery, but I was awake and alert for it. And they went in, they go up through your groin with catheters, found a little problem in my heart, put a burn in it, and it actually resolved the problem there for a little bit. But in 2019, I started to have them again and quite more frequently. So the circuit had reformed. I remember being at the World Championships in 2019 in the marshalling room for my semi-final of the 200 freestyle, and it happening while I was in the marshalling room. And for me, there's no way of stopping it. It was just riding it out, whether it was 30 minutes or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. I just had to sit there and hope that it was going to, go down, I guess, before the race was due to start. And luckily it did. But it was like doing a max heart rate session just before I was supposed to race. That really, really sucked. And I guess the scary thing of it all was if I dove in for my race and it happened, I'd have to stop. I'd have to get out. So, dive in for the 100 freestyle Olympic final. I have this SVT come on, and then I have to stop and get out of the pool. So 2019, as soon as I came back from the World Championships, the sassy doctor booked me in again and went straight in for surgery. They took the circuit completely out, and I've been all good since, which has been awesome. So pretty much 4 years of not having to worry about that anymore, which has been awesome. And obviously a little bit of a mental strain. I think I was able to kind of push it aside and learn to live with it because that's all I ever knew for such a long period of time. But it was always a bit of a stress whether it was going to happen race day or when I dove into the pool. So I'm definitely glad that I no longer have to deal with that anymore.
Oh man, that's insane.
And then mental health. What was that? Yeah.
I was going to say it's insane that you still swam after experiencing it, like while you were getting ready for a race. For me, I don't know whether I would have gone through with that.
Yeah, I think, again, probably being wired a bit different, but also, just, I don't know. I'm in that semi-final. I've worked so hard to be there, representing my country. There's not many people that kind of back out and go to the marshalling room and then don't actually race the race. So I probably never even thought of the possibility of not racing or diving in. I knew that I had to do it, and it was not at all my best race. It's probably, a race that I look back on and think that, how much better I could have gone if I was able to progress into the finals. But I didn't manage to even make it back to the final because I was just so physically and probably mentally exhausted because, mentally I'm like so stressed that it's happened. And then physically I've just done a max heart rate session for 10 minutes before I've tried to do a 200 freestyle, which is, I'm not good at the 200 freestyle at the best of times, let alone after that.
Yeah, that's insane. What's your, like, going into the previous Olympics where you said you missed out on gold again by 0.06 or 0.6, did you feel a massive weight of expectation? Obviously, you're coming back from 2016 as like literally a national hero. Did you feel a lot of pressure going over to defend that?
Yeah, definitely. I think Adelaide's a very small place in that sense. We don't have a huge amount of athletes. We don't have a huge amount of Olympians, and we don't have a huge amount of Olympic gold medalist swimmers. So everyone kind of knows who I am to an extent. Everywhere I go, people notice me. Like it's kind of an everyday thing that I stop and get photos and signatures and whatnot, which has just become a normal aspect of life, and I kind of do it without even probably noticing or as I used to, or just the people looking at me all the time like I'm a absolute freak. So 2021, obviously, I don't want to say controversial Olympics, but people did think it was controversial there that it was going ahead with COVID and people being in lockdown still, and COVID being so ripe at that stage that I'd walk around the grocery store or wherever I was, and people wanted to comment all the time whether the Olympics should go ahead or whether it was going to go ahead, and how my body's going, how I'm going, am I going to win again? So I'm having this constant conversation. Push my trolley down the next aisle, have a conversation with a person, go around the corner, have the same conversation. And I think for me, I not only found that quite overwhelming, people with that pressure and expectation, obviously, but I also found, people putting that doubt in my mind that the Olympics wasn't going ahead and that it shouldn't go ahead, that in my mind I was like, this is going to get cancelled at any point. So I was like mentally preparing myself for it to be cancelled again. And then, like all the media hype, and then you sign sponsorship deals, and there is a whole lot more pressure going into that than what there was in 2016. 2016 going in as an underdog that no one knew, going in as the defending champion that everyone's chasing, was a massive challenge for me, but something that I loved, and I think I managed to do quite well. At the end of the day, I swam half a second faster in Tokyo than I did in Rio, which is a massive amount in swimming. So I swam 0.5 of a second faster. I went under the Olympic record time. I'd just come back from shoulder surgery, so I'd only really started swimming properly again in March. So didn't give myself all that much time to prepare for the Olympics. So just being there was a massive tick in the first place. But me being the probably competitive, very self-motivated person, kind of willed myself over the line to get that silver medal. And if I'm honest, I do reflect on that time, and that medal is probably the pinnacle of my swimming career so far, with how much changed and how much I had to sacrifice or how much I had to go through in that 5-year period to then stand on the Olympic podium again and have success again. It's the one that I love the most.
That's awesome. It's a huge feat because so many people don't even make the Olympics, let alone an Olympic final, and then get to podium twice, which is phenomenal. But I guess tying that back into where I was before with the mental health, how's I guess the public spotlight, the rise to fame, the pressure of the nation on you, and also trying to make time to do things that you want and the sacrifices, how's that impacted your mental health, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, I think like every human, or a massive majority of humans, there's definitely points where mental health's no good, and as males, you probably don't talk about it as much as you probably should. But I think that's something I've prided myself over this last few years, especially, is kind of being a bit more of an advocate for mental health, kind of being like, hey, I am the same as everyone else. I'm a human. We face the same challenges as you guys do. My mental health suffered over the years, and at times has been, because of things in the media that people probably don't think before they write, or the anxiety that comes with all that pressure and stress and people watching you. And, there was a period where swimming was just swimming. It was another sport for me. I could go to training, I'd come home from training, and that was it. Whereas now it's like I swim, I do sponsorship commitments, I do podcasts, I do, just things that are constantly keeping me, the expectation it becomes a full-time job. So there's anxieties that come with that. And I think I've, been very good at making sure that I work with psychologists over the years and try my best at times to talk about how I'm feeling or how I'm going and what I need. And my coach has always been quite good and quite understanding that if I'm coming in and going, hey, mate, my mental health's really poor at the moment. These are probably the reasons. He's very good at being like, go home to Port Lincoln for a few days, go up to the Sunshine Coast with one of my best mates up there and train and just try something different for a week or two just to try to find your feet again. And I think the most important part for me getting back on track with having really good mental health is, hanging out with my mates as much as I possibly can, trying to be that normal person, socializing. I'm very close with my family, so spending time with my family, connecting with them, doing the things away from the pool. It's all stuff that kind of goes away from the pool, but I know that it makes me happier. And there's been times where I've pushed all of that aside, pushed my family aside, pushed my friends aside to just fully lock in and focus on swimming. And that's where, I've found it really lonely and have struggled with mental health at times. And I think the other key one that's hurt me a lot over the time is injury. I think, injury obviously not only physically impacts your career, but mentally and emotionally impacts so much. I did a full year of, don't know how many people are going to know too much about swimming, but I did a full year of kick, like just using my legs when I had my first shoulder injury. I had a snorkel on, just face down, looking at the black line with my hands by my side. I did a full year of that. And it was like, I was seeing a physio every day. I was doing as much prehab as I possibly could. I was getting cortisones once a month, almost in different spots. I was getting the, I'm not sure what they call those, where they take the blood out, they spin it, and then they inject the plasma back into they inject it into my subscap to repair that. Doctors, everything kind of advice. And at that point, I kind of felt probably a bit like a racehorse in the, like all these people were meeting and having meetings, physios from around Australia, doctors, my coaches, my gym coach, they were having these meetings and being like, all right, the plan for Kyle over this next month is to do X, Y, and Z, and then we'll reassess. Whereas I never kind of got much say in that. But that impacted my mental health massively because I'd go to training every day. I'd watch the guys do what I desperately wanted to be able to do. I'd come home, I'd drive home, my shoulders would be sore from driving. I'd try to sleep, my shoulders were sore because I couldn't roll onto my shoulders from that. And my mental health just took a massive decline, and I just wasn't able to, enjoy life out of the pool or enjoy life in the pool. So, like last year, kind of around February, I thought that was me done with swimming. That was enough. I couldn't take any more of, the mental and emotional pain that swimming was giving me. And I was semi-retired for probably close to 2 months, unofficially retired. I went home to the country where my cousin lives. He lives in a town called Streaky Bay, a town of about 750 people. He's a mechanic, so I kind of worked with him as a boat mechanic, went fishing, kind of did a fair bit of hunting, ate probably some pretty shitty foods, had a fair few beers, ended up going to Melbourne to a Bucks party for one of my mates. And my best mate, Ash Delaney, who's from the Sunshine Coast, he used to swim with me. He's a coach now up there. He was at the Bucks party and said, hey, mate, come up to the sunny coast, see my family, see my house I bought because he'd relocated from Melbourne up there. And I went, well, I'm unemployed. I've got nothing to do. I'll come up there, and ended up jumping in the pool with him. He kind of coaches at a high school program, so a lot of younger kids that are just doing swimming for the love of it. And I just had a lot of fun and fell in love with swimming again. Changed to doing a bit more butterfly, and mentally probably found myself again and realigned myself with my values and what I need to do, and probably, you know, changed my perspective on swimming a little bit as well. Like not having to be as rigid and focused and whatever all the time, but more so, like I said earlier, is just having that distraction away from the pool, having the fun away from the pool is only going to make me better in the pool. So, definitely mental health impacted swimming and my life massively over the period.
Thanks for sharing that. There was a really key takeaway for me that you said. Obviously, when you shifted locations, you sort of changed the environment. And when you think about like an injury, for example, you might do a hamstring or your shoulder, you work out, what may be causing that. And then you might have to relearn how to do your stroke or your whatnot, or prehab, stretching, mobility, all those sorts of things. You just want, you need to change something in order to not have the same injury. And if we look at our mental health the same, often with, anxiety or depression or whatever it's coming through, it's generally a reason that something in your life is not working well. So you sort of got to go through and start being mindful of what could it potentially be and how can I change it. And obviously that relocation for you for a bit was a great thing. Yeah,
definitely. I think, you end up finding yourself in that, like you said, that trap of just doing the same thing over and over again. And you're under, mentally you just get worse and worse, and you start wondering like, why is that? And again, like I'm a person that tries to find ways to resolve it and force myself to be happy. And I remember meeting with Ian Thorpe at one stage, and it was kind of like his best advice was, you got to fake it till you make it. And I was like, oh, that's not the greatest advice ever, but I think definitely that change in environment and just reassessing things and realigning the values or the goals at points has helped me. And obviously at the moment my body's injury free. I'm having a lot of fun away from the pool, and I've honestly never been happier. So I'm swimming fast, and day in day out I'm having a whole lot of fun. So I'm really happy that I've done the hard work of working with professionals, and I'm still continuing to meet with psychologists all the time. And even if I know that I don't need to or want to, it's just an important contact to have. And important thing to do is just, Tuesday nights or whatever, just kind of sit down, break down the week, kind of get it all out there. And again, as a male, there's still things that we bottle up at times, and you probably don't think about all that much in the moment until you're actually talking to someone or talking to a professional that you're actually then willing to share and get it out and go, oh, actually that was probably something that was slightly weighing me down. And I've definitely found that beneficial over the period.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, mate, I really appreciate you jumping on as you preparing for the World Champs, which is awesome. So your time's really important, and recovery is important, all those other things. So I do really appreciate you coming on here. I've got so much stuff written there that will be very insightful for myself. I've been doing, it sounds weird when you can say now I've been checking out all your stuff 20 years ago. That's stalking, but now it's like, it's fine apparently on social media. So mate, best
Completely
of luck
normal.
for the but best of luck for the Worlds, mate, and we look forward to seeing you continue to do amazing things. And it's also been really insightful for me as well, just how much of a bloke you are. For me, it's just like you're just someone who achieves at such a high level, but you're very authentic and genuine with everything that you do. So thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. I think you broke up there a little bit, but yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time too, and hopefully some people are able to learn a few things about myself, mental health, whatever it is. Hopefully there's some key points that people are able to take away and implement in their life.
Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time. Thank you for listening to the Man That Can Project podcast. My name is Lachlan Stuart, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful. If you did, please take a moment to rate and review the Man That Can Project on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with our newest episodes. We'll see you again next time.